So hello and welcome as well. My name is Allison Cullen and I'm the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs at the Evans School. And like Sarah, I have an interdisciplinary background. I was trained as a civil engineer and I worked at EPA, and then I went to grad school in public health, and I worked at a consulting firm, and I am now a professor at a policy school, the Evans School at the University of Washington. And so I think, as Sarah said, it's the norm. We come from many different fields and backgrounds, and especially in health and natural resources and environmental areas, we bring science and policy together in this way. So I welcome all of you to the University of Washington who are from outside. We have practitioners coming today and people from agencies and partners around town. And I especially welcome students because I think they're the heart and soul of what we do at the university, and I think it's wonderful that you're putting on this event, and I just celebrate that. I think it's terrific. There are a lot of challenges and future planning issues around especially energy, water, human health, transportation, lots of the issues that the panels will be grappling with, and none of these will be solved by any one field. And so as Sarah said, it's critical that we bring together people from many disciplines to work on these. And I think many people have understood for a long time that science needs to be able to inform policy, and if you look at the early days at EPA and other government agencies, there was this feeling that science and policy would be kept separate and science would be brought to policymakers and they would then use that in policy making. But over time, and I was actually at EPA over a time when this was changing, there became an understanding that we needed this dialogue, we needed this interaction in order to bring policymakers and scientists together in an iterative discussion about what's needed, and policymakers also speaking to scientists and saying, look, these are the kinds of facts, these are the kinds of model runs, the kinds of information that would make a difference to us in what we're trying to do. So not just the scientists giving their information to the policymakers, but flowing in the other direction as well. The Evans School has a long history of collaboration among fields on campus and have been involved with the environmental management program, with the program on the environment. The program on climate change works with some of our students on a Gates Foundation project on crops and climate change and looking at how we can feed the world under future climate scenarios. We have faculty who teach multidisciplinary classes, and we bring in students from all over campus into our classes, and our students also go out and share in the other classes around campus too. And I think it's been a difficult time for the university, especially in recent years with the budget and looking at what we do and how that will be funded and how, who will get credit for certain things and who will put on certain courses. And so I just celebrate events like this for really standing up and saying, we need to keep doing this, especially in times like this, not just despite times like this. And as usual, I had a few notes, but of course I throw them away and then talk about whatever I feel like talking about. So I'm very fond of saying that although most people have a strong appreciation that policy has a lot of judgment in it, because of course an individual is having to bring together on behalf of a public decision many different perspectives, there's a lot of uncertainty, there are trade-offs, there are lots of things being weighed, and a particular decision-making individual or group is trying to weigh all of that on behalf of larger groups and make decisions on behalf of them. But science also has a lot of judgment in it, and I think scientists probably appreciate this in one sense, but policymakers appreciate it in another sense. And I would just stress that what we know about a scientific field, the fact that one result is published and another isn't, the fact that one project gets funded and another does not, the fact that we pursue certain lines of research at certain timeframes and others in other timeframes, all of that has a lot of judgment behind it. And so having that policy feedback about what would be relevant, what would help solve problems, can help shape those decisions that actually shape what science we end up with at our disposal, which I think is just super important, and it's very much a result of judgment. So that old tendency to think of science as much more objective and policymaking as much more subjective, I think we've seen that line blur quite a bit. So just to kind of give you a couple of things to think about today as you interact with people in your field, outside your field, in the university, outside the university, and from all over. I would say first, and students who've had my class have heard this before, but first, and I always try to put this first, try to become aware of why you believe what you believe about a particular issue, about a particular decision, about a particular challenge, about a particular scientific finding. And very, very importantly, what would change your mind? Is there some particular data or model result or finding that would make you rethink your current position or your current stance? And try to become aware of this on behalf of others too, as you talk to other people. What is it that's driving them to believe what they believe, and what might change their mind? And seeing where that common ground and that interaction can take place. Because you may find a fruitful new area for collaboration where there's something that both of you would find important and interesting. And so that is a really valuable thing that could come out of today for some people. Second, I would think really hard about communication. Sometimes between fields, we struggle really hard to find the words that will mean to others what we intend them to mean. And we misunderstand each other, sometimes hilariously, sometimes very badly. But like any relationship between disparate parties, you get out what you put in, and so it's really worth working on those communication areas, and you'll learn to speak multiple languages, and I think that's something that for me, working across different fields has been really, really wonderful. And then finally, once again, I just really want to thank GPSS. I think it's amazing that you guys have put on this event, and I think it's so important at a time like this to stand up and say, if we're going to solve real-world problems, if we're going to address actual challenges into the future, we need to bring these fields together, and we need to be able to bring in people from inside and outside of universities, from every sector, public, private, nonprofit. All of those lines have blurred, and we can bring together people around problems and then become very issue-focused and problem-focused in what we do. And so I really salute you guys for putting this on. I think it's wonderful, and I thank all of you for coming, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And I know people will be coming and going all day, so I have a faculty meeting, so I won't be here for all of this, but welcome, and thank you so much for coming.
Good morning. I'm Charles Plummer. I'm an executive senator in the Graduate and Professional Student Senate, and I'm also one of the co-chairs who organized this event. So I just want to thank you all for being here, and I'm glad that even though it's early, we do have a few students in the house already. Before I say anything about science or policy, I want to take time to thank the countless people who made this event possible. First off, I want to thank my fellow committee members, specifically my fellow co-chairs, Megan Gams of Oceanography, Mark Jaffrey, the GPSS treasurer. Without them, this would not have been possible. The type of work it takes to plan an event of this nature, to execute it, is collaborative. So I want to extend my warmest thanks to the GPSS staff, senators, and officer corps for making this happen. Without them also, we wouldn't be here. I would like to also thank our contributors from across campus. To them, we give our deepest gratitude, and their financial support was critical in executing this event. The goal of this summit is to explore the intersections of science, scientific inquiry, and policy development, to showcase the broad expertise of the University of Washington's researchers, and to bring together students, faculty, staff, and fellow citizens to learn about and engage in some of the toughest issues facing Washington State today and in the future. The Graduate and Professional Student Senate is known for its advocacy on behalf of students, specifically on issues of higher education such as tuition, financial aid, and access. However, the students of the University of Washington have deep and diverse interests. And in many areas, we are actively producing the research and solutions to problems that directly impact our state. And with this in mind, GPSS has sought to engage our constituents in the broader university community in a new way that could leverage some of our unique talents and the critical role that we as a university play in producing data and studying these complex issues. The result is this summit. It is my hope that this event can be a tool to further connect the university to the state at large, as well as a place to begin the long and difficult task of tackling important and scientifically interesting policy problems. Sound science and strong policy are two of the cornerstones of our modern society. From the EPA to Silicon Valley, these two components have often been combined to our nation's betterment, but unfortunately this is not always the case. Too often, we find obstacles standing in the way of translating scientific solutions into policy victories, be it poor communication, political gamemanship, or lack of funding. The results are often the same: bad policy founded on bad or incomplete science. It is with this in mind that GPSS has developed this event. And so today's summit will focus around four of the most challenging policy areas that stand for Washington State, the first of which will be public health. Clean water is critical for the health of our communities. Since the heyday of modern environmentalism, water quality and safety have been major concerns. Our first panel today will focus on the health of our drinking water. With that, I am privileged to introduce and hand over this session to our first moderator, Dr. Scott Minsky, from the Department of Environmental and Occupational Health Sciences and the University of Washington School of Public Health. With that, please welcome Scott and the rest of our panel.